Arc Junkies presents Weld Wednesday with AWS, brought to you by the American Welding Society. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me for this month's edition of Weld Wednesdays with AWS, brought to you by the American Welding Society, is the one and only Sean Flottman, a.k.a. Dabs Wellington. Dabs, how you doing tonight?
I'm very well. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Do you prefer Dabs or Mr. Wellington now that you're, above 40?
Sir Wellington,
Sir Wellington?
given the years of service in the industry, but I'll answer to Dab, Sean, just about anything. I've heard it all over the years,
I bet. I always want to spell it with two dabs, but it's only one B.
An extra dab never hurt anybody.
That's true. So you've been in the industry for a while. How long have you been in the welding industry?
I've been clocking in and out as a welder or some kind of fabricator or something since 1999.
99. Okay. Oh man, you've been in it for a minute.
For a hot minute. Yep.
A hot minute. Yeah, you're coming up on almost your 30-year anniversary pretty soon.
Oh, I'm telling you, it'll be that and my high school 30-year graduation. Yeah, I'm starting to be on the backside of things here, even though I still act like a 15-year-old kid. So
yeah, how does it feel to know that you were born in the late 1900s?
Well, given that I do presentations in front of high school age kids quite often, they remind me of that frequently, as well as my daughter as a junior. Ava she likes to remind me that I'm from an entire different century. So yeah, it's in the forefront of my mind.
Never gets old, no pun intended. I do when I run the ATF, so I do a lot of testing for high schools and stuff like that. And part of the application is I have to get their birth date. Well, when when I do the test and they pass, and I don't pay attention to it when they're filling out the paperwork. I just make sure they've got all the answers in all the right boxes. But when I go to submit their application to AWS, I have to type in their birth date, and I'm like, oh my, how are you this old? Oh, geez.
Interesting seeing the aughts on there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 2001. It's what? 2002. Are you kidding me? Jeez. Yeah, it does make you feel a little bit older.
Yes, a little bit. Yeah. Mature. I like to say I'm mature.
Well-aged, refined, established.
There we go, established. Because mature doesn't describe me whatsoever.
There we go. So I wanted to get you on here. We've talked about it a couple times on AWS. Some of the other podcasts that I do, it's talking about, the salary of the $100,000 salary that all of the welders kind of expect when they complete welding school. And I think the problem is, I don't know exactly where it comes from. The problem is a lot of schools use that as marketing and advertising. You'll see it up on big billboards, $100K a year, no experience necessary. And I think, that's one of the things I always told my students when they came in day one. If you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons, because if you don't absolutely love this trade and love everything about it, like waking up and building stuff and fabricating things and leaving a legacy and getting better every single day at it, if you're just in it for the money, you're going to be miserable the entire time.
At the end of the day, it's just a lot of freaking hard work if you don't love it.
It is. And if you're allergic to hard work, you're not going to like welding because it's physically and mentally demanding.
100%.
So when I know you took a different route than I did, you got into industry and you kind of did OJT to learn how to weld, right?
Yeah. I was going to college for, I wanted to do business management. Obviously, I had a huge interest in journalism and photography. That's why I like the video and editing and everything now. I freaking hated college. I bounced around as a temporary at a couple different places and eventually landed in a metal shop having zero experience with metal. Walked by a guy, happened to be running a TIG welder, the first time I'd ever seen a TIG welder, and it changed my life. Dropped out of college. 2 weeks later, I was full-time employed at Washington Metal Fabricators, and that has laid out as we just discussed, it laid out the next 29 years of my life. It's why I work at the school now, because Adam Holt was now our director of training, was one of the guys I met at that shop. That was the genesis of everything. My entire life for the last 30 years has revolved around metal, welding, and this is a subject that is very near and dear to my heart because I've worked for almost 30 years to achieve what most people say is a myth, but it is possible under certain circumstances.
For sure. It's not like you're going to walk out of, a welding class, 6-month welding program, a year-long welding program, and the entire class start off with a 100K salary. It's possible.
It's
There are
possible.
outliers in this industry that can go and they can fall into a great job right when they get out of school, then they can hit that 100K mark. But for your average everyday welder that goes into a welding program or even learns 100% OJT, that's not the norm. You're going to start off,
Nope.
depending on your area. It could, I mean, I've seen it as low as like 15, $16 an hour in certain areas.
$6.30 an hour is what I made at my first welding job.
How much?
$6.30.
Oh, damn. I was like 938. It was always
It
weird
was a
numbers.
buck and a
back
half
then.
more than minimum wage at the time,
Yeah.
so not too shabby.
Right? I mean, you're doing pretty good compared to most folks.
It was better than flipping burgers at the time,
It was, and more fun too.
Absolutely.
But I think, a lot of people just have this misconception in their head that, they're going to go to welding school and they're going to walk out as God's gift to welders. And people are just going to be lined up outside the door to hand them a 6-figure salary.
Well, unfortunately, not everyone has, we'll call them ingredients.
Mhm.
If you're going to make a Michelin star meal, it takes a certain level of ingredient to reach a Michelin star dish. If you're coming in and, let's be honest, not every person is an A student. Not every person is got the same mental, physical capabilities. There are certain stresses, mental, physical, that go into every part of this job. And a lot of those upper echelon, even though you're just a dumb welder, if you're a journeyman level pipe fitter, you're pretty freaking smart. If you are a journeyman level math, journeyman level welder, you could probably walk out of a welding school and make 6 figures your first year, but those are the expectations of a 6-figure salary. If you don't leave somewhere with those skills and don't match those expectations, until you do, you may not make 6 figures.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people you can't make, like, I love your ingredients analogy, because you can't make chicken soup from chicken poop, right? You got to start off with quality ingredients. Yeah, you got to start off with quality ingredients to do this. And like you said, you can't just walk out of welding school and just know how to do fillets and grooves.
But also on the flip side of this argument, I have never met a student that didn't have the drive and the passion, that didn't leave an institution of education better and more well equipped.
Yes.
Not everyone over 30 years can develop a 6-figure salary. Many that try will eventually reach it. But I mean, some people, myself included, it took me the better part of 2 decades to even start coming close. And that's with a mixture of welding and multiple other businesses, but that's, people just see 6 figures. It's like, there are a lot of ways to do things as a welder. But right out of welding school, man, there's a lot of moving pieces, that 10 to 15% maybe. And man, that's probably still a reach. It's a possibility. But they've got to listen to a lot of things. They've got to get lucky. Luck, landing a union job, whether you're doing it right out of school or right off the street, is a stroke of luck. That is not a guaranteed way to earn 6 figures, but it's a hell of a start.
Yeah. I did same thing. It took me about 2 decades to get into that 6-figure range. And it wasn't just like going to work at my 9 to 5 and then coming home and just kick back and relaxing. It was like doing the 9 to 5, doing fab projects over here, side work over here, running a podcast, figuring out how to monetize a podcast. All of those things combined allowed me to get into that mark. However, that's what fit my lifestyle. That's what, I could have traveled around. I could have made, I had job offers. Hey man, we'll pay you $65 an hour, $100 a day per diem, this, that, and the other thing, working 7/12s for 6 months, going shut down to turnaround. And I was like, no, I did all my traveling when I was in the military. I want to find something local. And here's what the local industry in my area had to offer. And for being in my local area, I was making pretty good money. I wasn't making, national big time money, but it was like local big time money. And that's kind of what I was looking for. And that's kind of what I tell a lot of folks that kind of have this, misconception when it comes to welding is, if you kind of live in a small town and you go to a welding school and you go back to your small town and apply for a job, you're not going to make 6 figures of welding. You're right. The wages are trash in the welding industry where you live.
Yes.
However, I know that, like compared to what a journeyman iron worker makes down here in Florida, I think the whole package is $54 and some change. I know up in New York, it's above $100 an hour.
100%.
So again, it depends on where you live. I mean, there's a lot of iron workers down here in Florida that want to go up to New York to get vested in their pension program and work up there and kind of live in Florida. So best of both worlds. You're paying for you got your mortgage and stuff down here in Florida. You're paying state taxes in Florida, but you're working out of state making big money. That's another opportunity. But you're not going to be able to go in your own backyard and find that kind of money. You've got to travel. I mean, unless you're living right next to where the work is, and chances are 6 months from now, the work's not going to be there anymore because the building's going to be complete. The pipe's going to be laid. They're going to be off to somewhere else that's not in your backyard once again. So you're going to have to travel around and move where that money is.
Well, I think you brought up a great point there. The myth of the six figures. It's not a myth if you think you can do it close to home. I'm not saying that there aren't a handful of people, journeyman welders, stuff that have been doing this for a long time. But if you're right out of welding school and you think that you're going to be able to sleep in your own bed, that mom and dad are going to be able to cook you meals and stuff, there are students that are going to earn six figures this year, but they are going to be rolling stones. They're going to hit shutdown after shutdown. Some of them may get lucky and do a data center and get new construction, but they're going to be living less than desirable lives. But that's what they signed up for. A lot of these people get out there and they can't hump it like that for 12 months out of the year. So then they go back home and they say, well, I never made it as a welder. Six figures is a myth. It is tough. But there are some people out there that are willing to chase this, whether it be 70 hours a week under the hood or juggling three things like yourself and myself. After we get off this podcast, I'll be packing and shipping out 6 more bracelets. But I miss the hustle. I miss being under the hood. I'm at a point in the summer now where I can juggle 2 or 3 things. And, it's an opportunity to make extra money. There is opportunity. If you can weld, if you have a hood, there's 24 hours in a day. You don't have to make all the money for your company. There's a lot of different ways to diversify. Like you mentioned, the guy traveling, buy a place in New York and Florida. When you're in Florida, rent out the place in New York. Now you've got passive income. So there's a lot of different ways. If you're in this for 6 figures, let's make money while we're in the hood and outside of it. Let's think about this. Kenny Stu is a great welder that helps a lot of these young guys. I mean, 6 figures, if that is your only goal, it's doable. But I think people need to focus on how can I make money and be happy. Mm-hmm. How can you have this conversation 30 years from now and look back and say, God, I chased money the first 10 years and passed up a couple great opportunities that could have turned into somewhere you worked for 10 or 15 years straight. Money's great, but I'm to a point in my career where I'm looking at the entire thing.
Yeah.
What something can grow into. Money's great. But this is also an investment of your life. Where's it going to take you? Are you burning bridges just to achieve a 6-figure salary? What are you going to do 5 years from now? So there's a lot to think about coming up in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, if you're only motivated by money, then go chase it. But if you sit back and think you're like, I want something close to the family, I want to start a family. Like if you're in the middle of like trying to start a family or you've already got, seeds planted, now's not the time to be like going to a traveler welder. Unless you can take your significant other with you and they want to go on the road with you. I know some welders that
you don't like her.
you gotta like her. I mean, like hell. I mean, I know some welders that their wife is their helper. They go out there and like they've got that relationship. But if money is your motivator and you've got roots already planted, like trying to find something local and figure out a way to kind of diversify your portfolio without working yourself to death chasing that money. Figure out how to, let's say you get out of school and you're making 50, 60K, figure out how to make that money work for you. Like you were talking about, if you got a couple rental properties and stuff like that, look into, real estate. That's a good thing to get into. Side work is awesome. If you can work 40 hours a week for company A, and then you can put in another 30, 40 for yourself, but you be smart with that money and figure out a way to invest in yourself and, maybe your skill sets or something to that effect, or, other business opportunities, look into those avenues. I mean, there's 100 different ways to make money. You just got to figure out how to do it where you're not sacrificing your time. And my uncle told me something right at the point of retirement. He said, Jason, you got to figure out a way to have multiple non-competing sources of revenue. And that's what he did his entire life. He worked for one factory, and he was like the lead supervisor for this factory for 60 years, loved it, worked there, or didn't work there for 60 years. I think he was there for 35 or 40. Anyway, he retired there. But he would go there and work 60 hours at the factory, but he also had a farm at the house. And on that farm, he had, agriculture. He was selling hay. He was selling meat. He had like a little butcher shop on site, selling honey. He had all these different things going on. There were multiple non-competing revenue streams. So one would never really interfere with the other because he had schedules dictated for everything. And that's kind of what I did with, my full-time job, my side hustle, and the podcast.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it wasn't easy.
It's not. It's a lot of. There's a lot
sure
of time and effort that goes into it. You got to have a loving, understanding family, and you have to schedule time for your family. But there's only so many hours in the day, so you've got to make You have to be comfortable making sacrifices somewhere if you're going to chase that money.
100%.
I think
it helps if your kids are getting pretty grown and they're never around anymore. Anyway,
they don't want nothing to do with you. You get a teenage daughter that's like, yeah, thanks, Dad. See you later. Okay, can I take the keys?
Exactly. So that adds for a little time, but no, I mean, I find myself getting FOMO watching watching kids leave. I mean, boiler making, pipe fitting. Gosh, we had numerous students just recently, getting hired in at $42 an hour. Doesn't take long to get out a calculator and start multiplying what $42 an hour times 60 hours a week turns out to on a weekly basis, and how many months you'd have to work in your first year to go over six figures. And I mean, there are Boilermakers. Like you said, unions across the country aren't always the same. Luckily here in Missouri and Illinois, Indiana, wages are looking pretty good. And when they're not, the students that want to make six figures, guess what they do? They pack up and they go to where the money is. They're going to live out of a camper. They're going to do things that most people don't want to do to get opportunities that most people don't have. And a lot of times, it's I love online forums and discussions because just because a group is the most vocal doesn't mean they're the ones that are correct. There are a lot more people that have aimed for a six-figure salary and not reached it. The ones that are making six figures probably don't have time to get online and either brag nor bitch about it. You know what I mean?
Or present your case. I'm like, no, you guys are wrong. I'm making it right now. I got the pay stubs to prove it.
I know it's uncommon for most people to see the situation that I'm in. I see it quite frequently. But I'm in a very signature location for that kind of circumstance to unfold, just such as yourself. But for 20 years before I worked at this school, I only heard about 100K welders. That was also, the people I surrounded myself early in my career in comparison to the people that I surround myself with now. I shake hands with more people that have made six figures probably than don't. But a lot of the people I'm talking to are men, women that have been in this industry for 30 years, men and women that had much different stories entering in this industry than I did, so rather than say it's an impossibility, I try to listen to what they did differently than what I did and see the effect that it has on people that are up and coming in the industry now. I missed my shot at making six figures the first 20 years of my career. I won't let that opportunity pass me by now. That's why I'm working, 8 hours a day at the office, 4 to 6 hours a night here. But if that is what somebody's goal is, man, there's a number of ways to do it. They just need to start asking someone that they see a little bit of what they want in them, how they got there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, today there's no excuse now because you've got Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all these other online platforms. You can reach out and talk to the welders that are out there making the money because a lot of them, they also have platforms. They've got got a pretty big following on Instagram. They have YouTube channels. They're running reels and shorts and this, that, and everything. And most of those folks are approachable because they want to help others. I've never seen anybody on Instagram that's doing really well for themselves that doesn't say, hey, if you got questions, if you want to figure out more about, like, shoot me a DM, or
Hmm.
answer information or questions and stuff in the comment section. I mean, they're out there. So, I mean, there's never been a better time to figure out, if you're in welding school right now and your goal is to make that money, identify with somebody that's out there, find somebody that's doing what you want to do and say, hey, how did you get there? Because I
Hmm.
guarantee you they're going to show you the shortcut. Because
Yep.
and that's kind of why I did the podcast for so long, is like, I want to help others avoid the same mistakes that I made coming up, so we can shorten up that learning curve. You don't have to
Absolutely.
learn like the way I did through hard lessons. Like, there's easier ways of doing this stuff. Like, a lot of the old timers and my mentors kind of helped me, dodge some different bullets and different things in the industry, avoid certain things, chase down, different opportunities and stuff like that. Find somebody that's doing that and say, hey, can you share, like, how did you get there? What steps did you take? If you could go back now and change, part of your path, what would you change? What would you do different?
Well, that's the beauty of schools, apprentice, journeyman programs, any of this stuff. It's just tradesmen sharing what they're sharing, the shit that's not in a book anywhere. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great literature out there, but sitting around a table after a mistake has been made and watching how a 30-year-old craftsman fixes a problem is a magical thing.
Mhm.
Just watch it. Oh shit, I remember I did this one time. It's just there are a lot of things that only time can teach you, and someone that is willing to give you their time, to where you can get those shortcuts, cliff notes, whatever you want to call it. That is an invaluable resource, that a lot of people, myself included, didn't have, but just little bits and pieces. When a guy saw me struggling and felt bad, but going to a school or apprenticeship program, that is their job to make sure that you get better. And that is one advantage I wish I had more of. It may not have made me as resourceful as I am today, but man, it's so nice to, when you see somebody just right in the middle of chicken shit, you can pop in and turn it into chicken salad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Now, for folks that are going the welding school route, like, what advice would you give them, as they're in welding school, kind of going through the progress, going through the curriculum, learning how to weld? What's some information you would, or some guidance or advice you would give them for their time in the program?
If they have previous experience, try to whitewash that and learn everything from a different perspective. There's a million different ways to go from point A to point B. There's no right or wrong answers. Trying everything, at least everybody else's way, until you find your own, is the better. And regardless of what school you're going to, if it's a 2 or 4 year college, post-secondary program, apprenticeship, whatever, your time is far more limited in that program than you initially think. No one has ever reached the last day, not a single student one, and gone, I got everything accomplished that I wanted to.
Yeah.
So buckle down from
Usually
day
quite
one.
the opposite.
You're paying a pretty penny for this. Make sure you're using all the material, asking all the questions, and humping it for 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. A lot of people squander some of their time when there are many that never had that opportunity. And that's what makes and breaks a $50K to $100K salary.
Mm-hmm.
You have 6 months to reach the top of that heap. The top 10% are the ones that get the best opportunity. The longer the music's playing, the less chairs there are, and eventually that music stops. You do not want to be the last one without a chair.
That's
And
a fact.
it happens. I was no different in high school. Giggle my way all through it, and then I was unprepared for adult life when I got to it. This is the biggest transition from childhood to adulthood. In the welding industry, no different than college is for white collar people. But this is, I always say, you're developing a window sticker. You come into welding school, you are a base model. When you leave there, you want to make sure that you're in LS, power windows, the from top to bottom, dressed
Leather
down.
seats, heated interior, custom sound system.
Exactly. You got 6 months to make sure that when you present your resume to somewhere, that you've got an ace in the hole, that you've got an instructor there saying, man, Sean does this. He's early. He's someone to corroborate your story. Because until you have 3 to 5 years of experience in this industry, you're going to need a couple people that do, to back you unless you're just aces. Unless every time you show up to a weld test and unless you can beyond a shadow of a doubt blow people's doors off, you're going to need a little bit of substance behind that sheet of paper or something to prove that, man, if I hire this kid fresh out of school, that he's going to be able to show up and join a crew of guys my age and fit in like a cog to where all the gears just keep spinning. Then, yeah, you can probably earn 6 figures a year. But, those are expectations, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, I actually had a student, like you said, I've got everything out of this program I came here for. It's usually the contrary. It's usually, we didn't have enough time. Wait, you went over that? When did you teach that? Like, I had a student, I remember it was the second year that I was teaching, and he was kind of like one of my problems kids. I was like, hey dude, get out of your car. Like, I'd go track him down. Like, I still had my military mindset. I was like, no, you're not slacking off. You're supposed to be in school. You're going to be in school. So I'd go track him down. You find him in the break room, the bathroom, hanging out, playing on their phones. Well, anyway, this kid, his ultimate goal, he was like, I want to do a 6G pipe test when I get out of here. And so I was like, okay. So I was working with him here and there. Come to the last week of school, he failed the test. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, like, I know you've been working at this, really hard the past couple of weeks, not the whole time you've been here, but the past couple of weeks, you've showed a lot of dedication. I'll let you run this test again tomorrow. So tomorrow comes around, he goes, it's the last day of school. Nobody's supposed to be welding in the lab. And I let him go ahead and run this test. And he busted out on the root pass. And he got really frustrated, started yelling at me, there's not enough time in this program. You can't learn this in this amount of time. And so I kind of I let him say his piece. And I said, every time I had to go drag you out of your car because you were sleeping, every time I had to go drag you out of the break room or the bathroom because you were in there playing on your phone, every time you were walking the hallways or, shooting the breeze with somebody off here in the corner, not working, not spending time in your booth, that was the time you should have been practicing. There was enough time in this program for you to do what you wanted to do. I've had students come through this program and complete every goal that they wanted to complete. There was plenty of time in the curriculum to do it. There was plenty of hours in the booth that you could have got that done. You chose not to. So for those of you that are out there listening to this podcast, whether the school's free, paid for by the county, because I work with students that, they're in high school right now and they get to go to the VOTEC Center, absolutely free. They can graduate with a welding certificate and get into industry that way. I've also worked with students that are paying $20K to go to welding school. And every welding school I go to, it doesn't matter whether it's completely free or it's $20K. You got the ones that are off on the corner, playing on their cell phone. Oh, yeah, I want to get a T-shirt for when I do inspections that says, I'm just waiting for my plate to cool down. I'm sure you've heard that 100 times. Don't be waiting for your plate to cool down. Find something
it's
to do.
6:02.
Yeah, be productive. Okay, cool. You're waiting for your plate to cool down. Why don't you go prep another set? Why don't you go through your machine, make sure everything's set up correctly. Go grab another handful of welding rods. Check the spool on your wheel. Make sure you got enough gas flow in there. Sweep up, clean up, maintain your area so you get a nice clean working environment, because a clean shop is a productive shop, or a clean work area is a productive work area. Go through and do that. Hey, your plates, you're waiting for your plate to cool down. Cool. Now is a good time to take that list of questions you should have for your welding instructor and go corner him and say, hey, Mr. Sean, how do I do this? What's a good place to do? Start asking them those questions. Keep yourself a little notepad and a notebook and write questions down, because once you get out of school, just for the day, not graduating, but once you get home, or you're on the ride home, or you're kicking back, relaxing for the day, you're going to start thinking of questions you should have been asking your instructors. Write those down. And then the next day, come in and ask those questions, because I guarantee you by the next day comes around, you're going to see a squirrel. You're going to forget all about that question. You're not going to get that question answered. I always looked at it as my students were paying my salary. So whatever they needed, I was going to give them 110%. If they were there putting in the time and the effort and the energy and doing what they're supposed to do, I'll sit there after class and I'll answer questions. We'll go grab the code book together. We'll go look things up. We'll research things together. I would give them 110%. And your instructors will give you the world if you ask them for it. But you got to show that work ethics. You got to show that effort. You got to show that you want to be there, that and you got to ask. You got to invest that time. You're making an investment in yourself, whether the tuition's zero or the tuition's like some extraordinary amount. You're making that investment in yourself. And honestly, if it's free, you should be showing up as early as they'll let you in that building and staying as late, until they kick you out the door, kicking and screaming. and burning every piece of rod and wire you can get your hands on, challenging yourself, asking for more work, extra curriculum, reading assignments, all that stuff. But you're only going to get out of a program what you put into it, regardless of that tuition rate. Go in there and learn everything you can. And if you don't have that attitude, if you're there to make friends and hang out in the booth and scroll Instagram and check out, Snapchat and whatever the kids are into these days, if you're spending the bulk of the time on your cell phone, you're not walking out of there with any form of good starting salary. Those are the guys that are like, man, I can't believe I can't find a welding job over $14 an hour. Well, you could barely pass the weld test to get into that establishment. So just thank your lucky stars. Like, go in there and maybe now you can put in some time and effort. And once you get some skills, maybe you can apply for somewhere better.
Should have worked on something other than MIG welding.
Spoken like a true TIG welder.
All right, there's money in MIG. You got to get good at flux core. I'm not going to be a complete prima donna.
No, there's good money in flux core right now. That's paying a lot of people's bills. There
is flux core, RMD. I mean, there are some really incredible different processes, even for people that don't want to, spend all day under a hood. I mean, there's a lot of options. That's this entire industry. If you get really good at it, 6 figures is in your future, but there is the caveat. You've got to be top 10% in your field. And that's the cool thing about welding. If you say, I want to be a welder, man, that's broad. So if you want to be the best of the best Boilermakers, what is there, 700 to 800,000 certified welders in the country? How many of those are Boilermakers? So it's like, shit, then you got to be the best of 100,000 maybe, or 50,000, or steam fitters, or oil field pipeline welders, So it's like, once you figure out kind of what your niche is going to be, then you kind of, exactly where that level is and where you got to reach. And that's a good thing to think about too. When people think they're going to just immediately hit a 6-figure salary, I know there's a lot of interest in the oil field pipeline industry, man. That's a tough one to immediately rig out. A lot of people think you're just going to immediately be a rig welder out in the oil field pipeline industry. Man, that is an industry, that brotherhood's still pretty damn tight, Oh, yeah. You can get hired by $798, but I don't think anybody's walking out there just a rig hand on day one, No. So there are a lot of myths with that 100K salary, but there are a lot of people that are proving that myth wrong if they can take all the little bits and pieces that we've discussed and find, like I said, that perfect recipe for them. And if it doesn't happen your first year, try again. And eventually it will. And most welders, even after they come off the road, if you've achieved that 6-figure salary, a lot of times there's ways to maintain it without taking a step back. Once you've journeyed out and you can get into a prefabrication shop, then you're getting closer to home and not having to travel, still maintaining close to that wage you were while So, I mean, I'm not so worried about them getting a 6-figure salary. I want them to figure out how to maintain it as well. Yeah. And those are possibilities. If people are smart about it. I was too focused on just working. I never zoomed out far enough to think where welding can honestly take me other than to Friday. And shit, here we are a lot of Fridays later. Honestly, just surrounding myself by people at the school, kids that were focused on 10 years, 15 years, it's helped me forecast further into my future. So when I was 19, I didn't think welding was going to take me into my 40s. I didn't think I was going to make it to my 40s. But here we are. I'm sober now. I'm living a much different life. It's like, shit, I might live to be 100. So now I need to do what most of these 19-year-olds are. I need to sit down and really forecast. Now that I'm making this, how can I maintain that for the rest of my career? A lot easier for me. I've only got another 15 or 20 years to figure it out. These kids have got 30 or 40.
Yeah.
And that's why being a non-union person, I won't say that I toe the line for them anymore, But I'm at the point in my life where I look at it like, boy, if I'd have done that at 18, I could see retirement from now.
Yeah. You'd be pretty
You
close
know?
to it.
Yep. So that's another really good thing to think about. Because I don't think a lot of people, when you said the ironworker package, I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of just Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street understand that, if a welder's making $42 an hour, what the above and beyond on that hourly wages as a part of that package. I think some of the ones the other day, I think a journeyman, God, I want to think the entire package was 110, 120, something like that. I mean, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. And I could be wrong at what it is here in Florida. Like I said, I think it's 54. I could be way off base. It's been a while. Like I haven't been part of the 808 since I think I left there in 2016 was like when I finally turned my book in. But for those that don't understand, like total packages, you'll get like, I was getting like 23 an hour on the hip or whatever they call 23 an hour on my check. And then my medical benefits were paid for. My dental package was paid for. That was all paid by the contractor. That did not come out. I didn't get like, oh, you made $23 an hour. Well, $2 an hour goes to your insurance. $2 an hour goes to dental. 2 hours. Like, no, it wasn't that. It was in addition to my hourly wage. The company was paying my health care, my medical, a pension, and annuity. And then some other unions, they also have like retirement programs. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like fringe benefits packages. There's a lot to it, but yeah, I mean, like you can make a ridiculous amount of money doing that. And like you said, like figuring out a way to maintain that living once you come off the road and all that. I think being smart with your finances is going to help out immensely with that, because a lot of people, they see the welders out there that are making like that big money. They see the trucks that they're driving, the fancy rims, the polished welding machine, starched pants, like the whole nine, like everything is like top end, high end, top dollar. You don't have to do that. You can find a good daily reliable used vehicle. You can
I'll be the guy
probably
in a
get
beat up Buick with no bills.
You can get a decent, welding machine on Facebook Marketplace that's got low hours on it, and you can start off with like decent stuff. You don't have to have top of the line. And even when you start making that good money, you don't have to go out and buy high end everything and flaunt that. And so I like that quote. It's like, let them think you can't afford the bread until they find out that you own the bakery.
Yep.
I love that quote. It's like just live below your means. You just because you're making the money doesn't mean you have to show everybody you're making that money. Live modestly. Hold on, invest that money and put that money to work for you while you're making it. And that way, when you do want to like say, you know what? I kind of want to, I want to start a family now. I want to settle down a little bit. I want to go back home. I'm tired of life on the road. Yeah, you got a nice little nest egg. You've got, other income coming in on top of your investments. You played it smart, and then you turn around and resell your used truck and your welding machine and all that. Or, perhaps you've upgraded some stuff. You can turn around and sell that and turn a profit on it. But I mean, live smart, live below your means. Be smart with your money. That's something I wish they would teach in welding school. We had at one of the schools that I taught at, they were like, oh, we're going to teach them financial management. We're going to have a class on financial management. We're going to have a guy from the bank come in and they're going to tell the students all about financial management. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be so awesome. That's exactly what these kids need, because I am not the one to teach them that. I am not the one to teach somebody financial management, right? So they got somebody coming in from the bank, and it turned out to be a whole, 6-hour sales pitch on why they needed to open up an account at the local bank. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
When are you going to get into like them actually managing their money, not just opening an account at the bank? Like, are you going to talk to them about, starting an investment portfolio, maybe a Roth IRA, maybe a regular or traditional IRA, maybe invest in some mutual funds, some CD, like none of that? No, you just want them to open an account. So like I went to administration and I was like, if you guys are going to do that, I'm just going to tell the students they have the day off, because that's just a waste of their time and mine. We could be in the booth welding, but yeah, I mean, like, manage your money properly. And if you don't know how to manage your money, hire somebody that you can trust to manage your money.
Call up Steamboat Financial real quick,
Yeah, I mean, go down to Charles Schwab. They'll help you out.
Yeah, exactly. That was the good thing about factory work and stuff like that. At least they have opportunities like that. But man, you start thinking about insurance. I've got a small family. Our insurance rates aren't crazy, but if you've got a couple dependents, it's like if you've got an employer or a union that's going to pay for your insurance over an entire year for a family of 5, at the end of the day, if a union guy is making 80K and a guy that has to pay his own insurance is making 100K, the guy making 80K for the union's coming out ahead.
Oh yeah, he's coming out way far ahead.
So I mean, those are things that people have got to calculate into that. It's like, just because you cleared 100K at the end of the year, how much of that were you seeing at the end of every week? So that makes a big difference too. It's like, are you doing it for the bragging rights? Are you doing it because, this is something you're going to maintain? You've got a goal, you've got a plan. At the school, I get to see a lot, we had a bunch of students the other week testing in, so kids at the very beginning, they were also testing a bunch of specialty welders that have been out there for years and years and years. And man, there is a huge difference in these walks of life and people. You can see the guys that have had it figured out, been saving, been preparing, and then the other guys that they can't get off the road even if they wanted to. That they've made piss poor decisions for the last 20 years of their lives. They've always bought the new truck. They've always bought the new house. An ex-wife got half of this, half of that. And it's like, they are now married to the road. They can't leave if they want to. So it's like, once you make six figures, it's like, you need to make sure you're making the correct moves in your life to where that is yours. I mean, there's a million different ways that I see people getting in trouble, and six figures only does you good if you're able to keep some of that to yourself. And, that goes for the toys, the women, the drugs, that's another huge thing. A lot of people get out, and maybe that's the blessing in disguise that I never traveled, given my, now non-existent relationship with alcohol. Who knows what the road would have done to me? It may have been the best or worst thing. But, those are struggles that can affect people in that six-figure year journey as well.
Yeah, you start making that money, you don't know what to do with it. You start hanging out with the wrong people. They're making bad decisions. You got just as much money as they do. Next thing you know, you're paying the tab.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and that who you wind up surrounding yourself, that huge problem in my 20s, a completely different caliber of person than I surround myself with now. The positives and the negatives, regardless of who you surround yourself with, are going to rub off on you.
Oh, big time. And I've actually noticed that, within the past 10 years of my life, like the folks that I'm hanging out with, it's like that old quote, like, show me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. Uh-huh. It's 100% fact. So I started hanging out with like people that have their life together, that are making good decisions. They've got money, they're stable. And then I've got friends that are like, hey man, what happened? How come we don't hang out anymore? Why aren't we drinking on the weekends every weekend anymore? Why aren't we doing this together? And it's like, because you're still doing the same stuff we were doing 15, 20 years ago.
There. I kept going.
I'm making some progress here. It's not, I mean, I love you. Like we're still boys. Like I'll, send you, a happy birthday and Merry Christmas, but I'm just not there with you anymore. I'm not into the same things, like I'm trying to better myself. And I think that's another thing. Once let's say you do graduate welding school, you've got to have goals and aspirations. You got to know where you're going. You can't just be like, all right, I graduated, now I'm going to go into industry. Like, what industry do you want to be in? Find those folks, surround your folks. You want to get into pipe fitting, go find some pipe fitters, go hang out with one of them, go find a crew of those people to hang out with, let them mentor you, let them guide you, especially while you're in welding school. If you're in a high density area of welders, or, like that industry is there, go hang out, see if you could chat with them. A lot of people will mentor you. They'll put you in the right direction, especially like a lot of those folks that, like when I was at teaching the college, I would take students on little field trips, to go see what things look like once they graduate welding school. Those people will let you like come in and not necessarily hang out, but like, start like an apprenticeship or like an internship with them. Yeah. So like, go see what's in the neighborhood. If you can get a job during welding school, that's going to teach you a little bit more work ethic. You're going to get exposed to more tools and equipment. If you're just going to welding school and you don't have a job after class because mom and dad's footing the bill, see if you can get a small job, in your off hours locally at a small fab shop. Surround yourself with some people.
We get kids jobs right where I started. They can go sit in the same hole where I started and be like, see how good you've got it. You'll never have to do this ever again.
Yeah. Once you graduate welding school, you can pick your ticket.
Uh-huh. But I mean, that's good. That's good for perspective too, though. because that's something like I'll see, kids get an offer for a job that's like $35 an hour. And they're like, well, man, all they're paying is 35 and 120. And it's like, I just want to reach across the table and smack somebody,
Smack 'em. I was making $6 and some change when
and it's like, my God, it's like, that's, it's like, there's a lot of people that could be a monthly salary,
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's not bad coming out of welding school with no experience other than what you've learned in the program. I mean, you don't even have a tool
$25 an hour isn't terrible. You know?
You don't even have a tool collection yet. You've got the welding hood they gave you at school. You got the jacket they gave you at school. They got the gloves, the tape measure. Like most of the students coming, and I could always tell who was going to do well. This is as an educator, and you can probably see the same thing because you're working at a school now. Plus, you travel around to other schools. The students that have the same basic gear on graduation day or all throughout the program, those aren't the ones that are going far. It's the students that by like the third, fourth week in the program, they're rolling in with a Milwaukee pack out loaded with tools, or even like just a raggedy old toolbox with tools in there. They
ones that are like, man, look, I found this used job box on Facebook. It's like, oh shit, this kid's he's on week 3 and he's already got a job box in the back of his truck. Like,
I mean, those the one, but you can tell they want it. They've got the drive. They're making that investment in themselves instead of buying 12 cans of Monster a week. Like they're buying a set of 11 arc clamps and some a combination square, a speed square. They're investing in themselves, buying a better tape measure. Starting to learn how to use a dial caliper. They're investing in themselves. I had a basic tool list in the class. Like, here's the basic stuff we're going to provide you. Here's what you absolutely need to have. I don't care what industry you're getting in. You're going to need these things. But then you'd see other students who are like, hey, Mr. B, I want to get into this industry. Like, tell me what are some tools that I can't live without? Mm-hmm. And that makes a big difference too. Like, just even as somebody that tests welders for a living, people walk through the shop and I can kind of tell how well they're going to do. If they come in or like, hey man, you got a set of safety glasses. Just by what they bring
on test day?
Oh yeah, like you got a set of safety glasses and a welding hood and I can borrow?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you knew you were coming in here and I do, and I'll loan it to him, but like, it's like, you knew you were coming in here for a welding test. And then you get the guy coming in behind him. He's got his hood, jacket, gloves, bucket full of tools, got their own grinder, their own wheels, everything, earplugs. Like they got the whole nine. Like, it's like, okay, they came here to actually do a welding test. And usually the people that bring a lot of those tools in, they're the ones that pass the test.
Yep. That's funny. That exact scenario happened with some of those specialty guys.
Yeah.
Turned out to be special for sure.
They're special welders.
But
I think another, like you gotta, like we were talking about earlier, you gotta have goals and aspirations. Like, set yourself up with a plan. But halfway through the program, you should have a good idea of what industry you want to get into. Don't wait for your welding instructor to say, hey, when you get towards the end of the job, or when we get towards the end of the program, I'll get you a job over here with this, mom and pop shop. They do a lot of MIG welding and they make handrails and stairs and stuff, which is good. Great place to start, right? You should be at home doing your own research, looking online. What types of jobs are available? I mean, you said it earlier, like there's so many opportunities in this industry, and it doesn't have to be under a hood watching a puddle all day. I mean, you've got automation, you got additive manufacturing, you've got aerospace, you've got pipeline industry, you've got structural steel, architectural, ornamental. We could go on and on for hours. Mm-hmm. This is one industry that it's like a spider web. There's so many things you can get into: technical repair, technical sales, so many different things.
Certified welding educator. I mean, come on.
Welding educator, welding instructor, welding inspector, welder performance qualifier. I mean, there's a lot of welding engineer. That's another one. You want to make 6 figures? Get into welding engineering. I mean, the industry is hurting for them as well.
Yes, there's a reason I play with fire. I'm not on the engineering side.
Oh no, there's a reason that I've got Amazon's basic calculator here, not like a TI 97 or whatever it is. I don't even know what those nerds use.
My calculator can still write boobs on it, and that's all I care about.
There we go. Yeah, I can just chat GPT whatever I need to know when it comes to engineering. Hey, Claude.
That's what the engineer's for.
That's what they're doing now. I guarantee you, a lot of engineers are using AI for a lot of that stuff. Like, man, I can't 100%. Remember. I know we went over that in class, but I don't remember because they were one of those students that were playing on their phone.
Exactly.
But I mean, this career can be whatever you make it. Honestly, like my career was kind of stalled out, and shameless plug, until I started networking within the AWS, because I met a lot of people outside of my bubble that I would not have been exposed to either way. And a lot of those folks that I met from going to, starting off at the section meetings, going to the Instructors Institute down in Miami, like a lot of these different events, Fab Tech is another one.
Mm-hmm.
You start meeting a lot of people that are doing the type of work they're at in life where you want to be one day.
Yep.
And you start hanging out with those folks. And like, I've got a lot of great mentors in this industry. And it was because I started hanging out with the right people. I found my tribe, because I noticed that a lot of the jobs that I was working at, those people didn't have the goals and aspirations that I did. They were content making the amount of money they were making. They were content doing the work that they were doing, the hours that they were working. I was not. I was always looking, okay, I've been doing this for a couple of years. I'm really good at it. I need a new challenge. Well, along with the new challenge should come, learning. And then once there's been some mastery that's taken place, there should be some compensation.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing that and not being compensated, it's like, okay, I need to find another place where I can start off at my current level and continue down that path. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into the same shop where if you're going to the same place every single day, making the same amount of money, working the same hours, building the same thing, and all you're doing is complaining, the only person you have to blame is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you believe you have the skills and you're worth more than what that company is paying you for, you have no restraints. You can go find another job that's going to pay you what you're worth. If you feel that you're being underpaid, go find that job that's going to pay you what your value is.
Mm-hmm. I have a 10-year fuse.
A 10-year fuse?
A 10-year fuse. I've worked every job for 10 years. But man, if I could go back in time to a younger Sean, the best advice, or any student, moving forward, the best advice I could ever get anybody is get out there, find a place, become the best in that room. Every time you're the best in that room, then find a new room, and just do that forever.
Mm-hmm.
Soak up all you are is a locust. You move from place to place to place, soaking up the knowledge till it's all gone, and find a new place.
And then go suck all the information up over there.
Exactly.
And
that's why I got to a school. It's like, finally found a place that's got enough information that maybe I can hang out and suck some stuff up for a while,
And you got room for growth and improvement and all that. Like I see you in there, maybe the old stick welders doing some stick welding now.
Well, I was a sheet metal guy for 25 years. Now I am structurally qualified, pipe qualified. Not that I'll ever weld it anywhere, but I see people doing cool shit, and it's like, I bet I can do that. So I go out and do it. And it's challenging. It's still rewarding. But I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it for the love of the game. I want to get better at welding. Like I said, I've seen people do it. I know I'm capable. I've got a passion for it. And that is something that, man, if you're passionate about anything in this industry, the money is just an added bonus. You know what I mean? It's
100%.
It's great, but it's like, I did this forever for shillings, and I was a happy 20-year-old welding, So it's like, now that there's money, it's just having my cake and eating it too.
Yeah. And that's it's funny you bring that up. I have to cut that out. My alarm just went off and it completely threw me off my track. When I got into welding education, I realized very quickly that the money was not there.
Oh yeah, not at all.
And the funny thing is, like, I've got my fuse is about anywhere from 1 to 5 years. It depends if I'm contractually obligated or not. My fuse, I got a 1 to 5 year fuse. Sometimes it's pretty fast burning. But I got into welding education. That's an area that I stayed at for 10 years, and I still do it today. Like, I love it so much, I opened up my own school. But I realized early on that the money's not here, but there are some fringe benefits. I get to weld as much as I want. I have access to all this state-of-the-art equipment. I get to share my passion with others. I get to learn every single day I come in this shop, because the students are always willing to test you. And, they're like, they're mad geniuses when it comes to breaking things. And you got to troubleshoot. Sure. Like, what did they screw up? And so they're constantly teaching me new stuff about the machines that even the manufacturers don't know.
Oh, 100%.
But like, I fell in love with the process of teaching, and I figured out a way just to sustain myself and my family on that dollar value, the amount of money that I was making. And that kind of made it worth it. It was like, yeah, I wasn't making six figures, but I just restructured it to where, yeah, like the mortgage is paid. Everybody's got food in their bellies. Like my car's reliable. My wife's car is reliable. We're not living way above our means. We're living at or below, depending on the week. And I love my job. Like I get excited every morning. My feet hit the floor, and I was like, man, I can't wait to get to work. I need to hurry up and brush my teeth, get my coffee, and jump in the truck so I can get to work, because that's where I want to be right now. And at the end of the day, I was staying late. They're like, okay, time's up at 3:30. Class is over. Class dismissed. I can go home. I'm staying into the night class, helping them out, just hanging out, just because I loved it so much. So just, even if you're not making the money, make sure you're happy. Because at the end of the day, I think happiness is more important than anything else. Like nobody on their deathbed has ever said, man, I wish I would have worked, had room for a couple, extra 712s. Like nobody said that. They're just like, man, I wish I would have spent more time with my family, or I wish I would have went fishing more. I wish I would have took that cruise. I wish I would have went backpacking through Europe. It's never, I wish I could have put a couple more hours in for the company. It's never that. Well, no, my grandfather, maybe my grandfather. I don't think he wanted to retire. They're like, part of his service contract when he left was like, I still want you guys to, he still wore the company uniform for like 10 years after he retired till he passed away. It was part of his retirement package that they took care of his uniform service. They would come to the house. I'm not even kidding. They would come to his house. They would pick up, but he worked for that company his entire life, and like part of that agreement was like, you're going to take care of my uniform service. They'd come to the house, pick up his uniforms, drop him off another fresh set till they saw him the following week. So he might've been the only one that says, I wish I would have had a couple more hours in the shop or something. But I mean, just be happy, chase happiness. Don't chase the money. That would be, like I've been on both sides of the coin. I wasn't making the money. I got to the point where I'm making the money. I would chase happiness. I'm at that point in my life now. I would rather chase happiness than chase money. Because it's not all it's cracked up to be. Once you're making that money, it's like, oh, cool. I've got all this money, and you look around, you're like, well, I've got no friends. My family's suffering. My health's suffering. But look at my bank account, man. You can't take that with you when you go.
If money was so great, people would never come off the road.
Yeah.
But every traveling guy is, man, one more shutdown season, I'll have enough saved up to come off the road. So I mean, it's an end to a means unless you've done something that is your only means. Nobody enters it going, I'm going to travel for the next 30 years. That doesn't seem like a realistic game plan.
You don't want to do that. I travel like maybe once a month, 3 or 4 or 5 days, sometimes once a month. And it's like that's about all the traveling I need.
Yep. I get a pretty good run in for 9 months. I'm still home every weekend, so I'm never extended, but there's some 12 to 1600 mile weeks.
They add up quick. Well, Dabs, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you again. I'm hoping to see you're going to be at FabTech Vegas this year, right?
I will be at FabTech Vegas, absolutely. Okay. I missed the one in Tampa. That is the only one I've missed and had complete FOMO. I'll make sure I don't do that mistake again.
I think it's coming back to Orlando in 2 more years.
Orlando, that's where it was. Sorry. Yeah. So, I always think Tampa from the old Weld.com days, Oh yeah, Weld.com too. Yeah, Clearwater.
So I think it's Vegas this year, Chicago next year, and then I think back to Florida. So
awesome. Chicago's my favorite, but that's it's the closest one to home.
That's true. Yeah, you'll have to. I'm sure I'll be doing some podcasts. You have to pop in and do the obligatory.
For sure. Even if you're in a glass case, I'll at least come by and bang on the wall.
Bang on the wall. Bang on the window. Hi guys. Well, damn, Sean. Before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, you can find me on all my socials at Dabs Wellington, and that's really about it.
Okay. Well. Awesome. Once again, thank you so much for coming out here and kind of sharing your experience from under the hood with the listeners.
Oh, and anytime. Always good being on here. And hopefully everyone can hear me because I got a mic. I pulled out all the stops for you this time.
Oh, yeah, you did. I appreciate that. You're a great guest.
my $5 awesome new headphones that I'll never use again.
Got the headphones, got the mic. Hopefully you received the receipt and you can return it.
I don't know if Five Below takes anything back, but they'll be worth it.
Maybe not. All right. Thanks, man.
Hey, see you, buddy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up this month's edition of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. Huge thanks to the American Welding Society for continuing to support education, standards, and the people who keep this industry moving forward. The AWS exists to support welders, inspectors, educators, and fabricators at every stage of their career. And if you're serious about sharpening your skills, advancing your career, or getting more involved with the welding community, AWSThe.org is where it starts. Thank you all so much for listening. Thanks for sharing the show, and thanks for being part of a trade built on skill, discipline, and pride. I hope you'll have a great rest of your month. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.